Solutions simplified.
Feel the energy with KineticHiFi.com.
How can they hurt us? They can actually care about us. Now people are saying that they are evil.
No, I agree with you.
Alex Jones agrees with the weekend sit and spin. Do you?
I agree with you, and the police and military better decide whose side they're on.
Only on the one and only.
A weekend sit and spin. It's on KineticHiFi.com. We're internet radio. We're alternative media. Just trying to get the truth out there.
Good job. Good job.
And good Sunday morning. Welcome in. You're locked into the Sunday morning Freedom Spin right here on KineticHiFi.com. This is part one, the Drew Howard Show. I'll be up with you until about 10:30 today. Unfortunately, I got to head out a little bit early. I do have to go to my day job today, so I'll have to leave a little bit early. I'll be here till about 10:30 instead of 11. But then at 11 o'clock, you'll get Nick O'Kelly for the Sunday Spin with Nick O'Kelly. So be sure to hang around for that. You don't want to miss that one. And picking back up where we left off yesterday, folks, it's more Ebola news. Looks like they're sending 1,000 more troops over to West Africa to help fight the Ebola disease. However, there's an interesting story popping up out of InfoWars this morning that's asking the question, is this about Ebola or is this about oil? That's right, an F. William Inglehall from the New Eastern Outlook. It's linked on Infowars.com. Obama's war on Ebola or war for oil, sending 3,000 troops to Africa Ebola areas that happen to export oil to China. The most vague and unsubstantiated basis lies behind President Obama's new war on Ebola. For a Nobel Peace Prize, President Barack Obama seems destined to go down in history as one of the presidents who presided over the most aggressive series of wars waged by a Belarus Washington administration. Not even George Bush and Dick Cheney came close. First, before the ink was dry on his Nobel Prize certificate, Obama announced Afghanistan's surge, pouring another 30,000 U.S. military into that destroyed part of the world. Then came Obama's war against Libya's Gaddafi, followed rapidly by his war to try to topple Syria's Assad. Soon came after Obama's war for democracy in the Ukraine, otherwise better called Obama's attempt to provoke Russia into a new confrontation with NATO by backing a gaggle of Ukrainian oligarchs, criminals, and outright neo-Nazis in Kiev. In July of this year, the Obama administration was pushing the president to launch a second try at bombing Syria back to the Stone Age, allegedly to destroy ISIS, a loony jihadist Sunni sect that was said to be a joint venture with the CIA and Israeli intelligence. Which, again, you got to tie ISIS to Israel when Netanyahu's not condemning him. He's actually speaking out that ISIS is good because they're fighting the Palestinians. They're fighting the other Muslims. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Not in this case, it's not. This is the enemy of everybody in the world. ISIS is. And if you try to back them, then you're on the wrong side. Now Obama's advisors, no doubt led by bloodthirsty National Security Advisor Susan Rice, have come up with a new war. This is the war against Ebola. On September 16th, President Obama solemnly declared the war. He announced to the surprise of the most sane citizens that he had ordered 3,000 American troops, the so-called boots on the ground that the Pentagon refuses to agree to in Syria, to wage war against a virus. In a carefully staged, managed appearance at the U.S. Center for Disease Control, Obama read a bone-chilling speech. He called the alleged Ebola outbreaks in West Africa a global threat, and it demands a truly global response. This is an epidemic that's not just a threat to regional security, it's a potential threat to global security. If these countries break down, if their economies break down, if people panic, Obama continued, conjuring the images that would have made Andromedon Strain novelist Michael Crichton drool with envy. Obama said, it has a profound effect on all of us, even if we are not directly contracting the disease. This outbreak is already spiraling out of control. Because, the economies of West African nations are so great. Everybody in the world looks to the economies of Sierra Leone and the economy of Liberia and the economy of the Congo. But here it goes. War on Ebola or war for oil? One striking aspect of this new concern for the U.S. president for the situation in Liberia and other West African states where alleged surges of Ebola are being claimed is the presence of oil. Huge volumes of untapped oil. The offshore coast of Liberia and East Africa Ebola zones conveniently map with the presence of a vast untapped oil and gas resources. The issue of oil in West Africa Notably, in the waters of the Gulf of Guyana have become increasingly strategic to both China, who is roaming the world in search of future secure oil import sources, and the United States, whose oil geopolitics was summed up by a quip by then Secretary of State Henry Kissinger in the 1970s. If you control the oil, you control entire nations. So, Western Africa is very oil rich now, we're finding out. There's a lot of oil reserves off the coast. Could that be the reason why we're sending 3,000 and now another additional 1,000 troops, so 4,000 total? And then it goes on to talk about Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands openly demanded forced population control this past year at Bilderberg, and 2 weeks later, Ebola arrived in West Africa. Coincidence? I mentioned yesterday the Georgia Guidestones had a mysterious 2014 stone placed on it. That's been since taken down and smashed, but still, could this Ebola be part of the population control? We know the Georgia Guidestones calls for a 90% reduction rate in humanity. And folks, I'm going to do a special spin this week. It'll probably be up Tuesday. I'm looking at coming in. I think Boyd's going to sit in with me. Boyd Stow, owner and manager here at Kinetic Hi-Fi. He runs the station, runs the FixFM.com as well. I think he's going to come in here and sit in because he's actually from that area of Georgia and has a big knowledge of it. So we're going to do a special spin this week on the Illuminati, on the Georgia Guidestones, on the depopulation, everything like that. Be sure to check that out. It'll air next week at this time. As I mentioned yesterday, I'll be doing some traveling next weekend. I'll be in the Piedmont area of North Carolina performing at Laughing Gas Comedy Club next Friday and Saturday evening. That's the 10th and the 11th of October. 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. shows each night, so hope to see you guys out there. Newsmax.com right now is reporting an AP poll. Americans lose confidence in government's ability to protect us. Americans lack confidence in the government's ability to protect their personal safety and economic security. A sign that their widespread unease about the state of the nation extends far beyond politics, according to the latest Associated Press poll. With Election Day about a month away, more than half of those in the survey said Washington can do little to effectively lessen threats such as climate change, mass shootings, racial tensions, economic uncertainty, and an unstable job market. Well, when you look at the things that were asked, climate change, no matter what Obama says, I don't believe is a fact. I don't believe the debate's settled on that. Mass shootings, nothing's going to be able to save that. You're always going to be in danger of that because you're going to have loonies that are going to go off the rails. Racial tensions, economic uncertainty, and an unstable job market. The economic uncertainty and the unstable job market are something the government could do. The racial tensions, look, until we get willing to address issues that we don't want to talk about, we're not going to get past racial tensions. Until people actually point the finger and throw blame at Ferguson for the riots that happened, for the disrest, you're not going to have it. As long as you have Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson running around going, well, it's perfectly okay to burn down a hair salon. It's perfectly okay to burn down a gas station. You're always going to have issues of racial tensions here. And a lot of that's spurned on by the race baiters, by MSNBC, by the Democratic Party. I think what we've got here in America is a perfect storm of not good things, says Joe Testel, 59, who lives in southwest Wisconsin and works as assistant engineer at a casino. For many of those questioned in the poll conducted before the doctors in Texas diagnosed a Liberian man with the Ebola virus, the concern starts with the economy. So this poll came out before that. The poll found that 9 out of 10 of those most likely to vote in the November 4th election call the economy an extremely or very important issue. But we got good job numbers this week, which we covered yesterday as to what the job numbers really mean and where they're really at. Record 62% of people not working, not even trying to find jobs, completely given up. Despite improvements nationally, business is far from booming in his state, Tisdale said. He has been supplementing his stagnant salary by renovating and renting out duplexes and has little faith the situation will improve soon. He wants government to get out of the way of business. If you're putting so much restriction on them where it isn't practical for them to expand or grow, why should they? Those surveyed also pointed to events such as the protest in Ferguson, Missouri that followed the fatal police shooting of an unarmed black 18-year-old and beheading of a woman in Oklahoma food processing plant, apparently at the hands of a suspected co-worker. Again, that was a terrorist act. He was a Muslim. He told people that he was going to cut off their heads. He'd been trying to convert them. That was a complete terrorist act they're trying to downplay as a workplace violence situation. This is the first time I felt insecure in my own country, said Jan Thomas, 75, of Swedensville, Montana, especially after the beheading in Oklahoma. That's scary. The poll found that Democrats tend to express more faith in government's ability to protect them than Republicans. Yet, even among Democrats, just 27% said they're confident the government can keep them safe from terrorist attacks. Fewer than 1 in 5 say so on each of the other issues, including climate change. There are too many people who still don't believe that it's happening, bemoaned Felicia Duncan, 53, who lives in Sharonville, Ohio, suburb of Cincinnati, and works as an office manager of a mechanical contracting company. Well, again, where's the data that it's happening? You tell me the sea ice is melting, yet we have record numbers of both Arctic and Arctic ice. Look, I'm not denying that there's weather events taking place. But what I'm saying is there's always been weather events taking place. These are natural cycles. The earth heats up. The earth cools down. That's what it does. That's how it keeps itself in homeostasis. That's how it heals itself. That's how it replenishes itself. The best thing we as human beings can do is get out of the way and let the earth do its job. Urbanites tend to be more confident the government will keep them safe from terrorist threats than do people living in suburbs and rural areas. Younger Americans are more confident than older people that the government can minimize the threat of mass shootings. When it comes to quelling racial tensions, Hispanic are more confident than blacks and whites. 13 years ago, after the September 11th attacks, as the Obama administration conducts airstrikes, or 13 years after the September 11th attacks, as the Obama administration conducts airstrikes against the Islamic State militants in Syria and Iraq, only 1 in 5 in the poll say they are extremely or very confident the government can keep them safe from another terrorist attack. 4 in 10 express moderate confidence. While there has not been a large-scale terrorist attack on U.S. soil since 9/11, roughly one-third of Americans say they are not too confident or not confident at all in the government's ability to prevent another. Bill Dennison, 85, who lives in Brandon, Florida, is among the minority who thinks the government is doing a good job keeping citizens safe, at least when it comes to preventing domestic attacks. Overall, I think they're doing the best job that we've done in this country with anti-terrorism. We're doing a magnificent job, and so far it's been pretty successful. He still expresses disbelief at the recent security breaches invoking Secret Service agents, including an incident in which a man scaled the White House fence and made his way deep into the executive mansion. The fact that guy can run into the White House is pretty disturbing, but we're only human, and humans are going to make mistakes. Where is this culture of accepting ineptitude coming from? Where is this culture of accepting failure coming from? We don't only accept failure, we glorify failure. We hold up failures. We make failures to be a symbol of honor. Where is this coming from? You know, and yes, the Secret Service had lost her job, which is the least that should have happened in that situation. Oh, what a disgraceful joke. I swear, I feel like I'm living in a punchline, but I'm not. That's the sad part. That's the very sad part is this feels like it's a joke, but it's not. We're up against the first break, folks. We'll be right back in a couple moments. Got more Ebola news. It's probably going to dominate most of the show today because that's dominating everything. We've got how the situation gets so out of control. It's a Washington Post editorial coming out today. We've got the path of Ebola. Still screenings all over the place. More and more cases popping up of Ebola-like symptoms. Top virologist says Liberia's airport checks are useless. We've got that. We've got Obama scrapped rule empowering feds to block ill travelers. Nurses are saying that they're unprepared, even as the CDC saying that we're prepared. So a lot going on with the Ebola news. Be right back. We'll get into that as the day goes on. Like I said, that's probably going to take up most of the day because there's just so much news going on with Ebola. Ebola is everywhere. But you're logged into the Sunday Morning Freedom Spin. This is the Drew Howard Show right here on KineticHiFi.com. Also on Spreaker Web Radio. You can check us out there. You can jump in the chat box at either place. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll be right back.
Ain't never been there, they tell me it's nice. I live in hotels.
shows, we got sunglasses, we got music, we got fake Rolexes. KineticHiFi.com. Keep it locked in, honey butter.
For America's wounded warriors, sometimes coming home can be a battle in itself. Every one of them needs our support to meet the challenges they face every day. The USO provides Americans a way to offer that support to our wounded warriors and their families. Join us. Visit USO.org to learn how you can make a difference in their lives. The USO, until everyone comes home.
Your business not going right? Don't know how to advertise? Come holler at your boys right here at Signs to See. We specialize in all your advertising needs. You need t-shirts, business cards, signs, banners. We got it all. Car magnets, decals, flyers. We got it all for you right here at Signs to See. Conveniently located at 937 Wapo Road, Suite 2B. You can also call us at 843-608-0722. You got a family reunion, you got a class reunion, and don't know how to get your t-shirts done? Well, call Signs to See. Signs to See is conveniently located at 937 Wapo Road, Suite 2B. Also, you can call us 843-608-0722. Or you can log on, SignsToSee.com. And I do all my business with Signs to See.
Hi, this is Eddie Floyd of the International News Show, AM News. I want to tell you about the Wainema Ranch. As a matter of fact, I'm going to invite you to visit Wainema Ranch for one reason. You can visit them online right now and help out where you can with our American heritage, the wild horses and burros at the Wainema Ranch. It is right here north of Reno, Nevada. That's WaiNemaRanch.com, WYNEMA Ranch.com. Get involved. Visit us today and see why I say my wife runs the ranch and I run my mouth.
Yeah, that's right. It's what happens when you cross bad with good. You're listening to KineticHiFi.com. It's Bud.
Yo, this is Junior Reed, and when I'm in South Carolina, I stay tuned to Kinetic Hi-Fi for the best in music, see? So hear this. Gunshot of fire, bodies on the floor, cops on the block, kicking down the door, it's crazy. Whoa, it's crazy. Hey, stand your horn. Being in the streets, it's all without a job. That's why no youths are out there on a rob. It's crazy. Whoa, it's crazy. And don't forget, it's Kinetic Hi-Fi, man, see?
When you started out with nothing and you're proud that you're a self-made man. And your friends, they all come crawling, slap you on the back and say,
welcome back into the Sunday Morning Freedom Station. KineticHiFi.com, Spreaker Web Radio. And we'll continue on with the Ebola talk that we've got going on. First off, we got nurses. We are unprepared to handle Ebola patients. Nurses, the frontline care providers in U.S. hospitals, say they are untrained and unprepared to handle patients arriving in their hospital emergency departments infected with Ebola. Many say they have gone to hospital managers seeking training on how to best care for patients and protect themselves and their families from contracting the deadly disease, which has so far killed at least 3,338 people in the deadliest outbreak on record. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has repeatedly said that U.S. hospitals are prepared to handle such patients. Many infectious disease experts agree with that assessment. Dr. Edward Goodman, an infectious disease doctor at Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital in Dallas, is now caring for the first Ebola patient to be diagnosed in this country, believed his hospital was ready. The hospital completed Ebola training just before Thomas Eric Duncan arrived in their emergency department on September 26, but despite being told that Duncan had recently traveled from Liberia, hospital staff failed to recognize the Ebola risk and sent him home, where he spent another 2 days becoming sicker and more infectious. The Texas case is a perfect example, said Micker Samos, a triage nurse in the emergency department at MedStar Washington Hospital Center, the largest hospital in the nation's capital. In addition to not being prepared, there was a flaw in diagnostics as well as communication. Nurses argue that inadequate preparation could increase the chances of spreading Ebola if hospital staff fail to recognize a patient coming through their doors or if personnel are not informed about how to properly protect themselves. At MedStar, the issue of Ebola training came up at the bargaining table during a contract negotiations. A lot of staff feel that they aren't adequately trained, said Samos, whose job is to greet patients in the emergency department and do an initial assessment of their condition. So Young Pak, a spokeswoman for the hospital, said there's been rolling out training since July in the emergency department and elsewhere and communicating regularly with physicians, nurses, and others throughout the hospital. So here's what I ask. If the nurses don't feel comfortable about it, they're the front lines. I mean, think about it. When you go to the doctor, when you go to the hospital, when you go anywhere, who do you spend the most time with? The doctor or the nurses? It's the nurses. The doctors come in, they see you for 5 minutes, and they're out the door. They make the big bucks for doing nothing while the nurses are sitting there. They're cleaning you up. They're taking your temperature. They're taking your blood pressure. They're getting your vital signs. They're getting your history. They're talking to you. They're really the front lines. And if they're not prepared, then we're not prepared. It's plain and simple. It doesn't matter what the CDC's sitting here saying. It doesn't matter if the CDC's sitting here saying, oh, we're more than prepared. And think about what else the CDC's saying. The CDC director, travel ban would make Ebola worse. Travel ban would make the outbreak worse. A travel ban to countries facing an Ebola outbreak could paradoxically make the problem worse, Center for Disease Control and Prevention Tom Frieden said Saturday during a press conference. This is coming out of thehill.com. Frieden said the CDC would consider any and all precautions, but warned that travel ban would make it harder to get medical care and aid workers to regions dealing with the outbreak. So it's not gonna hurt us here at home if we make the travel ban. It's going to not allow us to get in there and help the people. At what point do you realize you have to cut off a limb to save your body? Folks, that's what we're dealing with. Yes, it's sad what's going on in West Africa, in Sierra Leone, in Liberia, in the Congo. But at the same time, we have to worry about ourselves here. We have 370 million Americans that we have to worry about. The ability to get there was delayed by about a week because their flight was canceled and they were stuck in a neighboring country, he said. Cited a recent delay of African Union aid workers' experience tried to get to Liberia. So, okay, let's fly into there, but don't fly out. You know, it's Hotel California. You can check in anytime you like, but you can never leave. How about that deal? We'll send all the aid. Why are we even sending the aid in there? Why don't we just drop it? Can't we just air bomb packages in there? We can shoot a missile down a chimney in Iraq, but we can't drop a care package on somebody? Frieden emphasized lessons to be learned from the delayed response of an Ebola patient in Dallas. It took 2 days for those who had been in contact with him to be contacted by medical officers, and Frieden said that should alert medical professionals to pay especially close attention to patients' travel history if they're showing signs of a fever. As we anticipated, the arrival of the first Ebola patient in the U.S. has really increased attention to what health workers in this country need to do to be alert to make sure travel history is taken, he said. Again, it's just, I feel like this is a horrible, disgusting joke, but it's not. And is this Obama's October surprise? Ebola. Just go ahead and poison the country. What a joke. What a joke. I can't help but feel like that. And the sad thing is it's not. And there's no common sense anymore. Well, you know, if we keep letting people from Ebola areas into the country, that's going to actually help fighting Ebola. The more we get here and the more risk we have to Ebola, the more that's going to help us fight Ebola. People need to be scared. That's what doctors are saying. A Missouri urgent care physician and microbiologist says critics are wrong to say that he unnecessarily scaring people by warning of an Ebola outbreak in the U.S. People need to be scared, Dr. Gil Mobley told Fox News channel on Thursday. Mobley arrived Thursday morning at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport wearing a hazmat suit with the word CDC is lying written on the back. He told reporters for the Atlanta Constitution he wanted to show authorities that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention are underestimating the threat Ebola poses to developed nations. For them to say last week that the likelihood of importing an Ebola case was extremely small was a real bad call, he told the Constitution. On the day the CDC made the statement, a Dallas hospital sent a man back home who was later found to be the first Ebola case diagnosed in the U.S. So, yes, they're out there saying, don't worry, it'll never come here. It was already here. And because they're saying, don't worry, it'll never come here, the doctors were ill-prepared to diagnose it, and they sent the man home, exposing more people, exposing children, making this spider web grow of different people that could be infected. Mobley was critical of President Barack Obama's assurances that Ebola, which the CDC says can be transmitted only by close contact with someone showing symptoms, won't be a major outbreak in the United States. The doctors, where the rubber meets the road, don't agree with Obama, and that threat is minimal. Don't agree with Obama that the threat is minimal. He suggested fever centers be set up for anyone showing a high temperature at the emergency room to keep them away from other patients. The CDC is asleep at the wheel, he said. As for the claim that Ebola is hard to catch, Mobley told Fox News that if a person shakes hands with someone with Ebola who has a fever and then wipes his or her eye, you're dead meat, 90% chance. Again, why aren't we quarantining people? Why are we letting people in from Ebola-rich areas? Why are we still allowing air traffic? Why are we still allowing goods to come in from those countries? This is, and like you just said, it's through sweat. Think about it. Here in the Charleston, South Carolina region, yeah, today's a little bit cooler. It was 48 degrees when I woke up this morning. It was pretty chilly, but it's going to be back up to 80 by Tuesday, by tomorrow or Tuesday. You sweat a lot in this area. It's very easy to contract. Like you said, you shake hands with somebody. Boom, rub your eyes. You've got it. You're done. Representative Tim Murphy's calling for air traffic restrictions. Representative Tim Murphy said on Saturday that the Obama administration must restrict air traffic travelers from West Africa to the United States until they have been cleared of carrying Ebola virus. We need restrictions on people coming over here from there until the incubation time passes that proves that they are healthy, the Pennsylvania Republican told Fox News. We do not want to face this at our border. So he joins the long list of people that are calling for a shutdown in travel. And, of course, the Texas doctors are still saying that we'd like to clarify a point made in the statement released earlier. There was no flaw in the EHR in the way the physician and nursing portions interacted or related to this event. They sent him home. How can you say there's no flaw when they sent him home? And Obama scrapped the CDC rule giving the feds the power to block the ill travelers. It's coming out of the Daily Caller reports that rules which would have given federal government quarantine power over sick airline passengers likely would have stopped Thomas Eric Duncan, a Liberian resident, the first case of Ebola reported in the U.S., from ever setting foot in the country and bringing Ebola with him. Duncan may have infected up to 100 people before being contained to an isolation ward in a Texas hospital. The rules, first proposed by the CDC under the Bush administration in 2005, would have allowed the federal government to quarantine airline passengers showing symptoms for up to 3 days, as well as people exposed to those symptoms, and require airlines to inform the CDC about sick passengers and keep contact information on all passengers to enable the CDC to track down those potentially exposed. Ebola was one of the diseases listed, along with the highly contagious diseases such as smallpox, yellow fever, diphtheria, pandemic flu, tuberculosis, and cholera. The rules were only to be used in the event someone suspected of carrying such a disease refused to cooperate with authorities. Which is what we see. He knew he caught Ebola, and then he ran, jumped on a plane because, as people are saying, he knew he would be dead if he stayed in Africa. This was his best chance to survive. And you're going to see more people doing this now. Grayson was informed by the Department of Homeland Security that they will continue to work with federal colleagues on any additional measures needed, while a State Department spokesman said that the travel ban, I don't believe that's something we're considering. The person who has now been infected with the disease had 4 days when he could have had contact with hundreds of people, Grayson told the U.S. News and World Report. Can you tell me every person whom you've shook hands with on September 24th? I can't. And that's what's scary, folks. If you work with the public, if you're around people, this is very easy to catch. All these people, all the CDC and all these medical experts, well, it's very hard to catch. We don't know how it's transmitted, but we know it's very hard to catch. If that's the case, then why are the doctors and nurses in Africa catching it? Why are the people that are taking care of them catching it? Goes on to say we are playing dice with the lives of thousands of Americans. Even Botswana has imposed a travel ban from those countries with Ebola outbreaks, said Health Minister John Sesco, telling The Voice. This is a nation's health security, and Ebola is very serious and deadly. We cannot afford to take that chance. Air France, Air Britain have shut down flights from Africa. In 2010, when the quarantine plan was dropped, American Civil Liberties Union attorney Christopher Calabrese told USA Today the fact that they're backing away from this very coercive style of quarantine is good news. But it's going to make people feel bad. If you tell them they're sick and we have to quarantine them, that's going to make them feel bad. They're not going to be happy. They're not going to sit there and think everything is awesome because they're in quarantine. It's not awesome when Ebola's running around. And even a Center of Immigration Studies wrote in the National Review, the idea that allow people from those countries to board planes for the U.S. as long as they don't have a fever is absurd. Much of our political class is simply uncomfortable with the idea that border and immigration control should be used vigorously and unapologetically to protect Americans. You can hear the objections now. It would be xenophobic and might stigmatize West Africans. These countries would object to our State Department and they're being discriminated against. Discrimination isn't always bad. Discernment isn't bad. Let's use that word instead of discrimination on this. Let's use our discernment here. If you're sick with Ebola, we don't want you. We don't want you bringing that plague to our shores. We don't want you bringing that plague upon our house, to quote William Shakespeare. We have enough plagues to deal with. We don't need to deal with Ebola here because it may hurt somebody's feelings. You may be called racist if you don't want to bring in people from Ebola countries in Africa. That's just racist. No, it's not racist. It's common sense. It's keeping the population safe. We've got the nuclear option. A Charles Hurd article on Breitbart right now says the world supply of experimental Ebola drugs runs dry just as U.S. troops are deployed to West Africa by a commander-in-chief who has never appeared to have much use for the military as an actual military force. He deployed them there to fight, in all seriousness, the Ebola virus. A week later, the commander is pictured stepping off of a Marine One. He offers the Marines guarding him with their lives a lazy half salute, not even bothering to remove the paper coffee cup from his right hand. Can one be blamed for wondering if this is just maybe a president who doesn't like America's armed forces? Or perhaps a better question, how can anyone claim that President Obama has the thinnest shred of respect for America's warriors when he goes and does something like this? Of course, he did not plan for the world supply of ZMAP to vanish just as he deployed the troops to the single most devastating outbreak of Ebola in known history, but the idea that even with the real militaristic threats we face around the world, the president chooses to send 3,000 soldiers to Liberia to somehow combat a deadly, highly contagious virus is beyond explanation. We are told our soldiers are supposed to train medical personnel for what? How to use a bayonet? We were told our soldiers are supposed to help set up new medical facilities, so we're going to take the finest, most lethal, effective military in world history and send them into a petri dish of death to set up tables and cots. Dear Lord, what an insult. That would be like sending thousands of troops up the cliffs above Omaha and Utah beaches to fight the bubonic plague. Walking through the cemetery last week, I met a young veteran. He served in Afghanistan where he had both of his legs blown off and his right arm and his hand pretty much shredded from the elbow down. Of course, he is, right-handed. I was lucky, he said. The bird got me in about 20 minutes. How a young man balancing on two metal springs can now speak of being lucky, I'll never fully comprehend. I asked him if he was following all the recent talk of redeployed troops to the Middle East. His eyes flickered with rage, and then they went vacant, and he said he doesn't follow any of it anymore. I just don't understand why we gave up everything we gained there, he said, huffing as he literally sprang from one leg to the next. He told me these struggles with being bitter and angry about all of it. A lost territory, his lost legs, all of his lost comrades. He himself was blown up a full 3 years after the current president was elected on an apparently whimsical promise to end the wars. He's got a dog now that says it helps with anger and forces him to get around more on his metal legs. These work a lot better than the first ones I got. Also lifting spirits that he wants to become a police officer, but I got to learn to shoot again, he said, raising his right hand and straining his index finger, still stripped of flesh nearly to the bone. It was a lot of nerve damage. And that's... Obama doesn't care about the troops. That was evident in his salute. That's evident in the way he's treated them. That's evident in the way that he's handcuffed them overseas, given back every gain that they made. It's the military-industrial complex. It's the current war. We went to war with terror. We went to war with fear. Think about that, folks. We went to war with fear. Not a tangible force, not an enemy that we can line up against, not something that you can kill. We went to war with fear. An abstract concept. You're always going to be afraid of something. There's no way around it. There's always going to be fear in this world. And we can't beat it back. No matter how many bombs we drop on it, no matter how many Predator drones we use, no matter how many Hellfire missiles we use, you're never going to beat back fear. And we see that now. Now it's the fear of Ebola. It's the fear of diseases coming in. It's the fear of ISIS. It's the fear of being hit in the street. It's the fear of the random dog you pass. It's the fear of your power bill being cut off. There's always fears. We're going to take another break. You're listening to the Weekend Sit and Spin, KineticHiFi.com, Spreaker Web Radio. I'm your host, Drew Howard. We'll be back in just a moment.
Everyone I know goes away in the end, and you could have it all. My empire of dirt, I will let you down. I will make
Yeah, that's right. It's what happens when you cross bad with good. You're listening to KineticHiFi.com. It's Bud.
Hi, this is Bob Charles, the host of The Bob Charles Show. I very rarely endorse anything, but this service deserves my attention. Atlantic Repair LLC is the only credit restoration company that is actually headquartered here in Charleston, South Carolina. Unlike other companies that overcharge you because a middleman gets paid and then your credit report goes to Poland packed in sauerkraut. This company is here to help all of us and our credit problems like low scores, collections, judgments, inquiries, and a bunch of more bad stuff. Call Atlantic Repair LLC at 888-957-1118. They are the one company in South Carolina that charges 50% less than any other service on the planet, and no monthly fees either. They work till they are done. They get my vote. Now it's your turn. Call 888-957-1118 or go to www.atlanticrepairllc.com and follow the directions on page 1. They care for you.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah, hey.
Hey, why is the computer so slow?
Internet connection?
It can't be the internet connection. We pay like $300 a month for that.
Holy chestnut.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, I know.
Yeah.
So it must be. Let's look around here for a second.
All right.
Yeah. You know what?
What?
Where's this wire go?
That wire?
That wire.
I don't know. It looks new.
It does kind of look new, but then there's like 18 wires down there. Let's try plugging it in over here. What do you say?
No, not there. No, right here.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Are you sure, Tom?
Positive. Plug it in.
All right, let's try that out.
Okay.
Don't be that guy. Instead, put your trust in ITSimplified.com. Cloud computing, data center servers, network management, Web 2.0, SQL, scalable architectures, programming, tech infrastructure, security, and anything else you shouldn't bother trying to figure out. Call 843-376-1991. That's 843-376-1991. ITSimplified.com. That's IT-simplified.com. Solutions simplified.
Do you sometimes think life was just better when I was young? Maybe you're right. You know, there has been a marked decline in girls ages 8 to 14 that participate in Girl Scouting. And today we're looking for girls who are ready to be the leaders of tomorrow. Girls in this age group are vital to Scouting. They serve as role models for younger girls and uplift the community. And ladies, we need you to be that example too. Become a volunteer, a troop leader, or just enroll your daughter in Girl Scouts today. Call 843-552-9910 to learn more.
Thank you for listening to KineticHiFi.com Community Radio.
Familiar daily races, going nowhere, going nowhere. Their tears are filling up their glasses, no expression, no expression. Hide my head, I wanna drown my sorrow. No tomorrow, no tomorrow. And I find it kind of funny.
And welcome back. This really is a mad world. It's a great song. Very intense. Hard to cut this one
I find it
off.
hard to tell you, I find it hard to take. When people run in circles, it's a very, very mad.
We're in a mad world, folks. We're in a very mad world. Not an angry world. Just madness. Insanity. That's what we're in. It's a very insane world. Mentally mad. And I've got an article that won't load right now. It was out at Newsmax.com. I really wanted it to come up, but up to 30 million Americans may now lose their employer-based health insurance thanks to Obamacare. Just what we wanted to do. You know, going in with Ebola breaking out now, all of these diseases, not only Ebola, but the other respiratory disease that's causing kids around the country to become paralyzed, the neurovirus diseases, things like that. We're already getting drug-resistant strains of infections in hospitals. There's been people dying in hospitals all year with that. And people are losing their health care. It's like I keep saying, folks, this would be a bad joke if it wasn't reality. You know, it would be a completely bad joke if it wasn't reality. But this is reality. This is what we're faced with. And I don't understand the level of incompetence from the top down. You know, I've been saying that that it was all an act for this incompetence, but is it really? I mean, it's almost too perfect the way it's destroying us now. I mean, from ISIS beheading people to a blonde Texas woman's now their biggest tweet. She went viral in their world. We talked about that yesterday. It's a complete mad world, folks. It is insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. And that's what we see time and time again, is people doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again and hoping it'll be different, but it never is. I mean, we've got 8,000 people in Sierra Leone that are quarantined, but we're sitting here saying, well, if we block flights from Sierra Leone, then these people aren't going to get help. It kills up to 90%. It kills 90% of the people that get infected with Ebola. These people that are quarantined, these people there, they have no help to begin with. Why risk our entire population to save a possible 10% that might survive this? Out of the 3,000, let's look at this. Out of the 3,338 deaths, let's take 10% of that. 10% of that is 330, what? Yeah, 338. No, not even that. I'm doing Common Core math. It'd be around 350 would be about 10%. That's all that might have survived out of that. Do you not see the disparaging numbers here? Do you not see that we need to do triage? That's what triage is you help the ones that can be helped and the others, unfortunately, can't. But we don't have triage. We didn't have triage at Sandy Hook. That's one of the main reasons why it's hard to believe the government official narrative on it. There were no emergency helicopters. And the White House is still sitting here saying, "Oh, nope, we don't need travel ban. Travel ban will do no good." I can't believe this. Ebola's here and people don't care. People don't care. They're burying their head in the sand. What are you going to do? Maybe when it runs rampant through an NFL stadium, then will you care? Got naive liberal Texas judge enters Ebola apartment without protection. This is coming out of Breitbart, Texas. Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins shocked local press corps Thursday night when he and 2 female workers entered the apartment where America's first Ebola patient was stationed. He entered without any visible protection from possible exposure to the deadly virus. Judge Jenkins entered the apartment to speak with the occupants who are now being held inside their home under a protection order requiring their compliance. He and 2 unknown women entered and were not visibly wearing any gloves or masks or any form of protection. Members of the local media expressed shock at seeing a county judge enter the apartment without protection. What the hell is he doing going in there like that? Asked one television camera operator. Jenkins and the 2 women emerged from the apartment after about 10 minutes. The apartment is yet to be decontaminated by hazmat crews and are currently awaiting government approval before cleaning can begin. So because of bureaucracy, we can't clean the apartment. We can't clean it. Thanks to bureaucracy, again, we got to wait for government approval on everything. Whatever happened to it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission? What happened to that statement? You know, I think yesterday I saw a situation again of no good deed goes unpunished. Jenkins came down from the apartment and met with law enforcement and security guards. It appeared to be making sure the area was clear when the news cameras could see him. After about 2 minutes, the judge and his entourage turned and walked away. A couple of reporters shouted, "Judge, what are you doing here? Why did you talk to her about?" Jenkins did not acknowledge the question and walked away after getting a good photo op. So photo op, that's what it is. It's all about a photo op. We do have a report, though, about the sanitation crew here. Do have a video of that one, what they're waiting on. Let me get the video keyed up here.
Sir, wrong. Under Section 37B of the contract signed by him, it states quite clearly that all offers shall become null and void if, and you can read it for yourself in this photostatic copy, I, the undersigned, shall forfeit all rights, privileges, and licenses herein and herein contained, etc., etc. Fax mentis incendium gloria culpum, etc., etc. Memo bis punitor delicatum. It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. You stole fizzy lifting drinks. You bumped into the ceiling, which now has to be washed and sterilized, so you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
And, of course, that's a joke. That was Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory there. But, that's what they need to do. Thomas Duncan bumped into the ceiling, which now has to be washed and sterilized thanks to Ebola. Jenkins has a history of ducking questions from the media. In June, Jenkins agreed to do an interview with Breitbart, Texas during the Texas Democratic Party state convention. The person who arranged the interview came to get this writer, and when he returned, Jenkins had quickly disappeared to never be seen again at the convention. He apparently did not want to answer questions about the announcement he made during the convention that he was seeking to have children who entered the U.S. illegally housed in the Dallas area. So now what's going to happen is these 3 people are probably going to catch Ebola from going into the apartment, and then how many people are they going to see now? Who's Jenkins going to see? Is Jenkins' girlfriend going to get sick? Is his family? I'm done with Ebola, folks. I'm done with the Ebola coverage. This is complete insanity. Have you never seen the movie Outbreak? That's just what I'm begging. Have you never seen that? This is dangerous. Ebola makes you bleed out of every orifice, your eyes, your nose, your ears, your mouth, your skin. You just start bubbling up blood. And now they're saying that malaria could threaten the U.S. military Ebola missions in West Africa. So let's hope they're putting up malaria nets around their bed and killing mosquitoes. Speaking of mosquitoes, where's that article? This will be a good transition away. Referenced it yesterday, but we never got back to it. Let me see if I can find this article about genetically modified mosquitoes. And hey, there's the 30 million could lose health care due to Obamacare. We'll go ahead and talk about this article because it finally loaded. It's a Todd Beeman article out of Newsmax.com. As many as 30 million Americans could lose their employer-sponsored health care at the end of the year because those plans do not meet the requirements of Obamacare, health expert Betsy McConaughey said on Saturday. Most people still get their health insurance through an employer, McConaughey told Newsmax columnist and who is also a Newsmax columnist, told former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee on his Fox News program. 30 million people could lose their on-the-job coverage this year and be forced into one of those exchanges. The plans that employers brought to the small group market are suddenly no longer eligible. The employers are going to be stuck with going on a very expensive Obamacare one-size-fits-all requirement or saying to their employees, I'm sorry, but you have to get it elsewhere. We're going to see a lot of that in the coming months. Under Obamacare, many companies with fewer than 50 employees have insurance plans that are set to expire this year. Those plans were purchased before the health care law took effect. The employer mandates for such businesses were delayed by Barack Obama until January 1st, 2015. However, the plans expire. The businesses will be required to provide plans that meet Obamacare's requirements. 80-year-old women having birth control, men having birth control, things like that. We've talked about what's the requirements. For employers with 50 to 99 workers, they must provide coverage or pay a fine of $2,000 per employee. The requirement was delayed to January 2016 after an earlier delay in July 2013. And this is one of the things that the Supreme Court may take up in this session. Of course, everybody's looking at the gay marriage debate. That's a hot-button issue on Drudge right now that says they're back. Prospect of gay marriage ruling looms large at the Supreme Court. It also goes in to say that they may take up some of the Obamacare rulings. And I don't understand this. I think the best thing that the Supreme Court could do right now is to back away from this and say it's up to the states. And that's really the way it should be. If states want to honor gay marriage, then they can honor it. If states don't, then they don't have to. We've got, particularly here in the South, we've got a lot of states that have voted to change their state constitutions. It's public vote. You can't go against the public on this. But what you get is you get them saying, no, disregard that because they're evil if they vote for this. In fact, there's only been one state that's upheld the gay marriage ban, and that was Louisiana. All the others that have been challenged are still dealing with it in the courts. They're still fighting it out. And it goes on to say here in this article that, where is it? Hold on. I saw this one last night when I was reading this because I wanted to go off on it, and I'm about to write my congressman if the Supreme Court does rule this way. There's something where it says that it's a absolute right to get married. Where's the... I got to find the exact wording here because I read this last night when I was preparing for the show. But if that's the case, then I demand the government find me a wife. I demand the government find me a very attractive brunette wife with a lot of money. That's what I demand the government to do. If that's an absolute right of marriage, I demand the government to find that for me. Let's find that mosquito article now and let's get into that. GMO mosquitoes, as if they're not. Here it is. First GMO mosquito. Now Occident wants to release GMO moths in New York. Genetic splicing biosphere continues. This is a Christina Sarch article out of Infowars.com. Will the crazy GMO creations ever come to a halt? Probably not. I mean, this is Frankenstein. This is the island of Dr. Moreau here, folks. We're genetically splicing things together. And for what reason? Why do we really need glow-in-the-dark tomatoes? Are our crops not enough for biotech? GM mosquitoes developed by Oxitec, a UK company, were already released in other countries as a means to control disease. The company also is trying to release them in the Florida Keys while working to release GM olive flies in Spain. But now it gets more bizarre. Now Oxitec wants to release GM moths in New York. GeneWatch UK has been following Oxitec's moves and has noted the company's GM experiments, these are genetic modified experiments, have not undergone environmental assessment risk at all. The company is a spinoff from multinational seed company with deep ties to Syngenta. Oxitec claims to be the business of pest control, but another theory is that they're in the business with other eugenics for pest creation. Upon release, experiments using Oxitec's G. Andeas aegypti mosquitoes are ongoing in Brazil and Panama, Though the GE mosquitoes are being released, these experiments differ from Oxitec's GE agricultural pests that both sexes of the GE mosquitoes are genetically engineered to die at the late larval pupal stage. There is no guarantee that this type of genetic manipulation of the natural world cannot result in serious ramifications up and down the food chain. For example, if one species of mosquito replaces another, a more virulent breed of mosquitoes are likely to fill the void, possibly causing further crop damage and even spreading the viral disease in humans. The spreading of dengue or malaria, for example, could become absolutely catastrophic with these genetic manipulations, even though they are being presented as a solution to these maladies. Furthermore, birds, bats, and other creatures rely on mosquitoes as a source of food. When a major food source for just one animal is interrupted, it often results in the demise of that species, but also affects the animals that rely on that species for food. Now the USDA is considering granting Oxitec a 3-year pass to do open field trials of GM moss, allowing them to release 14 million of these altered pests on crops meant to destroy other pests that damage broccoli and cauliflower fields. We've seen just how great biotech is at pest control with glyphosate, and now they want to start releasing GM bugs. It all seems like a bad Hitchcock film. Again, everything seems like a joke. It really does seem like a joke out here, folks, but it's not. That's the very sad thing about it is, this would be great satire if it was satire, but it's not. It's reality. But as a population, as a people, do we even recognize reality anymore? I don't know. Anyways, we're up against the top of the hour break, folks. You're listening to The Drew Howard Show, part 1 of the Sunday Morning Freedom Spin, right here on KineticHiFi.com. Also on Spreaker Web Radio. Be sure to check us out. Also, be sure to hang around after 11 o'clock for the Sunday Spin with Nick O'Kelly. You don't want to miss that. He's got a big show coming up. I'll try to make you happy this morning. The song makes me happy. Great version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Hawaiian version. Love the ukulele. Ukuleles make me happy, folks. Hope they do you too.
Way up high, and the dreams that you dream of once in a lullaby. Oh, somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Dreams that you dream of, dreams really do come true. Ooh, someday you wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like lemon drops, high above the chimney top. That's where find me, oh,
yo, this is Junior Reed, and when I'm in South Carolina, I stay tuned to Kinetic Hi-Fi for the best in music scene. So hear this. Gunshot of fire, bodies on the floor, cops on the block, kicking down the door, it's crazy. Whoa, it's crazy. Hey, standing on horn, being in the streets, it's all without a job. That's why no youths are for you, they are no rob, it's crazy. Whoa, it's crazy. And don't forget, it's Kinetic Hi-Fi, man, saying.
For America's wounded warriors, sometimes coming home can be a battle in itself. Every one of them needs our support to meet the challenges they face every day. The USO provides Americans a way to offer that support to our wounded warriors and their families. Join us. Visit USO.org to learn how you can make a difference in their lives. The USO, until everyone comes home.
Do you sometimes think life was just better when I was young? Maybe you're right. There has been a marked decline in girls ages 8 to 14 that participate in Girl Scouting. And today we're looking for girls who are ready to be the leaders of tomorrow. Girls in this age group are vital to Scouting. They serve as role models for younger girls and uplift the community. And ladies, we need you to be that example too. Become a volunteer, a troop leader, or just enroll your daughter in Girl Scouts today. Call 843-552-9910 to learn more.
Hi, this is Bob Charles, the host of The Bob Charles Show. I very rarely endorse anything, but this service deserves my attention. Atlantic Repair LLC is the only credit restoration company that is actually headquartered here in Charleston, South Carolina. Unlike other companies that overcharge you because a middleman gets paid and then your credit report goes to Poland packed in sauerkraut. This company is here to help all of us and our credit problems like low scores, collections, judgments, inquiries, and a bunch of more bad stuff. Call Atlantic Repair LLC at 888-957-1118. They are the one company in South Carolina that charges 50% less than any other service on the planet, and no monthly fees either. They work till they are done. They get my vote. Now it's your turn. Call 888-957-1118 or go to www.atlanticrepairllc.com and follow the directions on page 1. They care for you.
It's what happens when you cross saucy with awesome. That's right, you're listening to KineticHiFi.com, baby. It's awesome.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries.
And welcome back in to the Sunday Morning Freedom Spin, the Drew Howard Show, right here on KineticHiFi.com, Spreaker Web Radio. Little John Lennon bringing us back this morning. Disagree with a lot of the concepts he talks about, but the base root is still the same. Be excellent to each other. That's really what humanity has to do, is just be excellent to each other. We say it all the time here at Sit and Spin Radio. It's really the mantra we live by. If you treat everybody excellent and we can get along, we can make this world a better place. It is a wonderful world we live in, and it's just time that we realize it. Take a look around. It's easy here in the Low Country. You see God's handiwork everywhere you look. It's beautiful. Love the Low Country. Live oaks, Spanish moss, the marshes, rivers, swamps. It's beautiful around here, and just lucky to live here. Got some bad news coming out of Japan. Typhoon Fanfan has arrived in Japan, has delayed the Japanese Formula One Grand Prix. That's not the bad news, though, folks. The bad news is that it looks like Fukushima may get hit with a 26.3 meter tsunami. According to TEPCO, the Tokyo Electric and Power Company that's been doing the cleanup there at the decommissioned nuclear power plant in Fukushima. And just to convert it for you, since most Americans can't do the metric system, to convert a 26.3 meter tsunami, that would be over 86 feet in height. 86 feet of water is getting ready to slam into the Fukushima region there in Japan. The deluge would likely cause seawater to mingle with the radiation-tainted water accumulating in the basements of reactor buildings at the 6-unit plant, allowing 100 trillion, that's 100 trillion, T-R-I-L-L-I-O-N, becquerels of cesium to escape, according to an estimate that TEPCO revealed Friday at a meeting of their Nuclear Regulation Authority, the Japan Times reported. And as if the North Pacific wasn't already burning on fire. I mean, we got melting starfish, folks. Look at the radiation that's appearing on our West Coast now. From California up to Oregon, through Washington, up into British Columbia, up into Alaska. The crabs are radiated. All sea life's radiated. The North Pacific there, anything above the equator in the Pacific is burning, folks. It's radioactively burning. And we get more that's going to be released. Not to mention the American Fukushimas we've talked about. The power plants that are set up all along the Ring of Fire there in California. And not to mention that that's the only place that we haven't had the earthquakes hitting. We've had them hitting in Japan. We've had them hitting in Alaska now. California, it's only a matter of time till you get the big one. It's only a matter of time. I got to do it. Here you go. This is for you guys. Fukushima, California.
I said no, Pop. Now get out of here.
Nah, you went and did it. I might need that money tonight. I've never had pains like this before. Oh, this is the worst one I ever had, son. Oh, it's the worst one. This is a big one. I'm dying. You hear that, Elizabeth? I'm coming to join you, honey. Oh.
And of course, that's Sanford and Son, the big one there, Red Fox. But I had to do it. Yeah, I had to play a little joke, folks. If we don't laugh, we're going to get way too down. And that's the only thing we can do is laugh, be excellent to each other. And that's the way we'll survive all this and we'll get through it. Here's a story we've been covering for quite a while. It's now breaking. We talked about this earlier in the year. Albuquerque police officers who killed a man in March when he was camping in a park. We talked about them, and then they turned the dogs loose on him. Well, now a video obtained by KOB4 News details a conversation between APD officer Keith Sandy and another officer shortly before the fatal shooting of James Boyd. During the conversation, Sandy can be heard discussing his desire to shoot Boyd, who he refers to as a effing lunatic, in the penis with a shotgun. For this effing lunatic, I'm going to shoot him in the penis with a shotgun here in a second, Sandy said. Let's see if we can play this video. I think it's coming out of the news channel here, so hopefully it'll have any of the language bleeped out.
Shooting of James
If it
Boyd
doesn't, I
by
apologize,
two
folks.
APD officers opened a deep wound in our community, prompting calls for police reform. For the last 6 months, our 4 Investigates team has requested dozens of documents, belt tapes, lapel camera video, anything to get a better sense of what exactly happened in the foothills when APD shot and killed Boyd.
Law enforcement agencies have denied our request, making it impossible to put together an accurate sequence of events. That is until tonight. Investigator Chris Ramirez has a video that APD didn't know he had. You're going to hear it for yourself, and you decide what it means.
And Tom and Tessa, the 2 officers who shot and killed homeless camper James Boyd, are Dominic Perez and Keith Sandy. Well, this story is about Keith Sandy. Nobody in the public has heard what Sandy said 2 hours before he pulled that trigger, firing those fatal shots. Well, you're about to hear Officer Sandy's own words. Keith Sandy, fired from New Mexico State Police, but hired by APD anyway, responded to the scene in the foothills last March. He sees an old colleague, State Police Officer Chris Ware. Sandy doesn't realize it, but Ware's dash cam is rolling, picking up this conversation that will change how lawyers, judges, and our community view this shooting.
What do they got you guys going? What do they got you guys? I don't know. Did I ask for state police? Who asked? I don't know. Stick? I'm going to shoot him with a shotgun here in a second. You got a left lethal? I got it. I just said the taser shotgun? Yeah. Oh, I thought you guys got rid of those. I got one. But wait, here's what we're thinking. Because I don't know what's going on. Nobody's thinking.
Civil rights lawyer Shannon Kennedy represents Boyd's family in a wrongful death lawsuit against APD.
So 2 hours before, he's saying, I'm going to shoot this man in the penis. And then 2 hours later, he's escalating the situation so he can do just that. It's chilling evidence of malice. And it's stunning that he has not yet been criminally indicted.
He spells out, even before he gets to James Boyd, what his intentions are.
Absolutely. Almost exactly 2 hours before he shoots James Matthew Boyd in the back, he says to a state police officer, that effing lunatic, I'm going to shoot him in the penis. It's crystal clear. And he says it with contempt in his voice.
A month later, APD investigators asked Keith Sandy what he meant by that shooting in the penis comment. In an internal investigation transcript, Sandy is quoted saying, jokingly, just kind of locker room banter, just told him, don't worry, I'll shoot him in the pecker with this and call it good. But a few moments later, the transcript shows how Sandy recanted his statement. The investigator asked, did you say anything to Chris Ware about shooting him in the pecker? Sandy responded, I don't think I did. But again, that audio tells a different story. Sandy tells the investigator the guys in his unit make crude jokes all the time. In fact, the jokes can get so hostile the unit has a safe word, China. When an officer calls China, all jokes must stop. Sandy explains he was merely joking about shooting Boyd in the penis. To play devil's advocate with you, he does very elaborately talk about how this was a big joke. He never really meant to shoot James Boyd. That was never his intention. This was just a big joke. Do you buy it?
Of course it's not a joke, because he went forward and actually shot him. Because clearly he has complete disregard for people suffering from mental disabilities. I mean, he calls him a expletive lunatic, and in the next breath says, I'm going to shoot him in the penis, which is, I'm not just going to shoot this guy. I'm going to shoot him and make him suffer. I'm going to emasculate him. And what is so mortifying about this shooting, which thank goodness we have a tape to show exactly what they did, was that instead of shooting him in the penis, he actually shoots him in the lower back. So had James Boyd not turned at that moment to set down his bags, he would have been shot in the penis.
Now, we checked with APD about Keith Sandy's current employment status. According to a spokeswoman, Sandy still carries a badge and he still carries his gun. He is on administrative leave, which means that you, the taxpayer, are still paying for his salary while he sits at home. One more thing, our sources are telling us that the FBI may soon release its findings on the investigation into the shooting. Chris Ramirez for Investigates.
And just to put this in perspective here, since 2009, there have been 47 officer shootings in Albuquerque, 32 of which have resulted in deaths. You want to talk about out-of-control cops? This is a case of it. Again, this isn't a case of Ferguson, which I do believe the official narrative coming out of Ferguson. Just because we have the surveillance tape of Michael Brown attacking the convenience store worker, we have that goes into his character. That shows that he was a violent thug. And if he's going to shove around a convenience store clerk that's half his size, I believe he's going to attack a cop. I believe he's going to try to punch a cop through the window. I believe the story that's being put forth of Michael Brown being a violent thug because we have him on video being a violent criminal thug. Same with Trayvon Martin. Of course, the media is not going to portray that. They keep showing the picture of a 14-year-old Michael Brown at Chuck E. Cheese with the giant headphones on. It looks like, he's just fat, out of shape, and can't do anything but sit there and eat Twinkies and watch TV all day. That's the narrative that's being put forth in the media. That's not the real story of what happened with Michael Brown. Yes, there were instances. They shouldn't have left him in the street for hours. With that, they shouldn't have did that. They should have shown a little bit of respect after they killed him. But I believe he was a violent thug attacking the cop. This case is clearly a man, James Boyd, sleeping in a park. They turned the dogs loose on him. They tried to shoot him in the penis. He had his back turned to him, so he got shot in the back. They turned the dogs loose on him. And again, I'm saying, if you want to riot over this. Riot over Kelly Thomas. Riot over Oscar Grant. Riot over Eric Gardner. Those are the innocents that are being gunned down by cops. Those are the true innocent civilians that are being gunned down that did nothing wrong other than being mentally incapacitated and having mental issues in this country. That's the only thing that they did wrong. Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown were criminals that attacked people with guns and deserved to die. Oscar Grant was riding the BART subway in Oakland and got pulled off and shot in the back while he was laying on the ground. Eric Gardner got choked to death in New York for selling cigarettes on a street corner. Kelly Thomas got killed for sleeping in a park. James Boyd got killed for sleeping in a park. That's the real innocence. That's the real non-victims of crime. Strong-arm robbery leads to your death. Sleeping in a park doesn't. Do you not see the difference here, folks? Do you not see the problems here? You riot over the wrong things and you let the ones that should infuriate you to your core go by unchecked. Why is this man still on administrative leave? Why is this man still carrying a badge and a gun? Why is this man still an authority of the law? He should be under the law. He should be in jail. He should be being mistreated in public jails because of what he did. I just, up is down, black is white. Everything is confused right now, folks. In our society, there is no constant. And that's driving me crazy. Just, where is the good at anymore? Is there any good left? I have to believe there is. I have to believe that's what we're fighting for, is that there's still some good left in this world. We're going to go to our last break here. This is the Weekend Sit and Spin. I'll be back to wrap up the show. Or excuse me, this is the Sunday Morning Freedom Spin. The Drew Howard Show. I'll be back in just a moment to wrap up the show. A little Pink Floyd taking us out to break.
Smile from a veil.
Sanity, common sense. I wish you were here.
Did they get you to trade your heroes for ghosts? Hot ashes for trees, hot air for a cool breeze, cold comfort for change. Did you exchange a walk-on part in the wall for a lead role in a cage?
Yeah, it's what happens when you cross big with small. KineticHiFi.com. It's me. What you think I was gonna say? Man, you people need to get your head together. I don't even know. I'm trying to have an attitude up here. I ain't got time.
Your business not going right? Don't know how to advertise? Come holler at your boys right here at Signs to See. We specialize in all your advertising needs. You need t-shirts, business cards, signs, banners. We got it all. Car magnets, decals, flyers. We got it all for you right here at Signs to See. Conveniently located at 937 Wapo Road, Suite 2B. You can also call us at 843-608-0722. You got a family reunion, you got a class reunion, and don't know how to get your t-shirts done? Well, call Signs to See. Signs to See is conveniently located at 937 Wapo Road, Suite 2B. Also, you can call us 843-608-0722. Or you can log on, SignsToSee.com. And I do all my business with Signs to See.
Do you sometimes think life was just better when I was young? Maybe you're right. You know, there has been a marked decline in girls ages 8 to 14 that participate in Girl Scouting. And today we're looking for girls who are ready to be the leaders of tomorrow. Girls in this age group are vital to Scouting. They serve as role models for younger girls and uplift the community. And ladies, we need you to be that example too. Become a volunteer, a troop leader, or just enroll your daughter in Girl Scouts today. Call 843-552-9910 to learn more.
Hi, this is Eddie Floyd of the International News Show, AM News. I want to tell you about the Wainema Ranch. As a matter of fact, I'm going to invite you to visit Wainema Ranch for one reason. You can visit them online right now and help out where you can with our American heritage, the wild horses and burros at the Wainema Ranch. It is right here north of Reno, Nevada. That's WaiNemaRanch.com, WYNEMA Ranch.com. Get involved. Visit us today and see why I say my wife runs the ranch and I run my mouth.
Thanks for tuning in to KineticHiFi.com. Stay tuned in. Thanks.
It's all wrong. By rights, we shouldn't even be here. we are. It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo. The ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger they were. And sometimes you didn't want to know the end. Because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing. The shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come. And when the sun shines, it'll shine out the clearer. Those were the stories that stayed with you. That meant something. Even if you were too small to understand why. But I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. I know now. Folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't. They kept going. Because they were holding on to something. What are we holding on to, Sam? But there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo. And it's worth fighting for.
And that's what we're holding on to here at the Sit and Spin Radio, Sunday morning Freedom Spin. We're holding on to the hope that there's some good left in this world. Everywhere we look, you see the signs of darkness. You see the signs of evil. You see the signs of us being sold out to Ebola, to tyranny, to terrorism, to fear. But there's still some good left. And it's our choice to find that good. It's our choice to seek out that good. I'm going to play another clip here because it is a choice. It's like Bill Hicks said. It's just a ride. And we can change it at any point. It's all a choice between fear and love.
The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and when you choose to go on it, you think it's real, because that's how powerful our minds are. And the ride goes up and down and round and round. It has thrills and chills, and it's very brightly colored, and it's very loud, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride. And we kill those people. Shut him up. We have a lot invested in this ride. Shut him up. Look at my furrows of worry. Look at my big bank account and my family. This has to be real. It's just a ride. But we always kill those good guys who try and tell us that. You ever notice that? And let the demons run amok? But it doesn't matter because it's just a ride. And we can change it anytime we want. It's only a choice. No effort, no work, no job, no savings of money. A choice right now between fear and love. The eyes of fear want you to put bigger locks on your door, buy guns, close yourself off. The eyes of love instead see all of us as one. Here's what we can do to change the world right now to a better ride. Take all that money we spend on weapons and defense each year and instead spend it feeding, clothing, and educating the poor of the world, which it would many times over, not one human being excluded, and we can explore space together, both inner and outer, forever in peace. Thank you very much.
That's right. All it is listen to the voice of love or listen to the voice of fear. And right now you have the mainstream media. You have the government. You have everywhere you turn, shoving fear down your throat. And there's a lot to be afraid of, starting with this Ebola. But it's time that we stop letting fear control us. Remember, folks, when you go out there today and you're out in the world interacting with people, remember the words we live by here at Sit and Spin Radio. And we'll play in a minute. Before we do, I'm going to say it. Be excellent to each other. That's all it takes. Good Samaritans. Used to, it wasn't a task. It wasn't something that people had to do. You didn't have to tell people to be excellent to each other. It was in your human spirit. You see somebody that's down, you help them up. You don't give them a handout, you give them a hand up. You don't let them become dependent. You don't let them become lazy and ignorant and sloth-like. You help them to build. You help them to create. We build off each other. There's certain things that in some ways I can agree with some of the concepts of what Obama says. Yes, we all build together. That doesn't mean you don't build it. That means we come together and we work. We build off of each other's creations. That doesn't cheapen or diminish anything. In fact, you should be proud if somebody takes something you created and takes it to the next level, innovates it. But no, we've made innovation a bad word. We've made invention a bad word. We've made creativity a bad word. We've made hope outside of Obama sitting there screaming it a bad word. And that's what's really dying off, folks, is our hope. We saw it in the poll we referenced earlier. Hope is the first victim in a war on terror, in a war on fear. Because you can't be afraid and be hopeful at the same time. So let your fears go. Start looking around at each other. I'm doing the wave project I told you, where if you see somebody, wave at them. You see somebody walking down the street, just give them a wave. Smile and nod if you pass people on the street. Say hey to people. Get your human spirit back. Because right now we're being attacked on multiple levels. And the easiest is the fact that you see people with their phones and tablets shoved in their faces, refusing to acknowledge humanity. It's time to put those aside. Quit watching the videos and listening to the music on your phones and on tablets. Turn off the TV, disconnect, and connect to nature. Connect to the spiritual forces that are around us. Connect to your Creator. Connect to humanity. Because right now, social media, the tech boom, is killing humanity. And it's replacing it with androids. I'm not talking the Google Android, although that is one of the biggest cases of it. But it's making people literally androids because they cannot live without their technical devices. Granted, it's external now, but the implants are coming. We talk about DARPA. We talk about all the tech news that comes out. Every 2-3 weeks, we get a new report saying by 2025, humans are going to have Google chips implanted in their brains. Humans are going to have technology chips implanted. You're going to have the RFID chip, which will unlock your door and have your bank account and your medical records. We're seeing out of Ebola now that, well, if people had the RFID chip, we'd know their travel records. It'd have their passport on it. It'd have all their medical records. We'd be able to keep up with things. The RFID chip is the mark of the beast, folks. It's biblical. It's right out of Revelations. So, as always, I'm going to leave you today with these words of wisdom. The words we live by at Sit and Spin Radio. The words I truly try to live by every day.
Be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes!
So party on this Sunday, but more importantly, be excellent to everybody. And if you're in the North Carolina region, Piedmont region, North Carolina, I want to invite you this weekend to come out to Laughing Gas Comedy Club, Winston-Salem. I'll be doing a guest spot both Friday and Saturday night, 8 p.m., 10 p.m. shows. Don't want to miss that. It'll be a fun time. Stay tuned for the Sunday Spin with Nick O'Kelly coming up at 11 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. Thank you for joining us this morning, and hope to see you next week for the weekend Sit and Spin right here on KineticHiFi.com, Spreaker Web Radio, Saturday 9 to noon, then Sunday again for the Sunday Morning Freedom Spin 9 to 1, KineticHiFi.com. Have a great Sunday, folks.